Okay. Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yerushalmi Shvis, Perek Vav. We are still in Halacha Aleph. We're learning today Daf Mem Vav. We left off on Daf Mem Hey Yomid Bey, second to last line in the Amid. And we're going to continue to speak about more locations that, in spite of the fact that they are halachically considered Chutz La'aretz, as we keep on learning in the Sugya, because the Oilei Bavel did not resettle that land. Nevertheless, the Chachamim did not decree the Tumais Eretz Ha'amim, Daf Mem Vav. The Gemara will also go back, and we're going to speak a little bit about Kibush Yoshua. We're going to speak about cities that were not conquered by Yoshua, thus they are exempt from Trumais, Maisris, and Shvis. And that would be a reason for them not to be Mechuyev. Or, as we already learned altogether, that even lands that were conquered by Yeshua, or subsequently by the Oila Bavel, if we follow the opinion that Yesh Kinyan La'akum, that the Goyish ownership, if a non-Jew owes land in Eretz Yisrael, his ownership is so effective, it's such a deep connection that it removes the obligation of Trumas U'Maisros and Shvius, then that would be the case. Even then there'll be parts of Eretz Yisrael that are also exempted of Trumas U'Maisros and Shvius. We're going to speak a little bit about whether a Kohen is allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael in order to do the mitzvah of Kibud Aim. That will be the story that we're going to be speaking about. And the issue of leaving Eretz Yisrael is an issue for any Jew, but specifically for a Kohen because of this Tumas Eretz Ha'amim. Kohen is not allowed to be Metame himself. By the way, even if he's already Tameh B'Tumas Meis. However, we also learned in Yerushalmi Brachas, a Braisa, that gave the exceptions for which a Kohen will be allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael, and we would like to know whether that also includes to leave for the mitzvah of Kibud Avayim. And there's going to be a lot of discussion regarding the lands of Ammon and Moav. Now, a couple of things about the lands of Ammon and Moav. First of all, that those of us who have an art scroll, every now and then it's going to be helpful, and maybe even now, to go back to Mem Dalid 44b1 to see the map based on the understanding or based on the majority of opinion of the interpretation of the Braisa of Tchumen, which is an extremely important Braisa, to see Pashit, what is the territory that was settled by Oila Bavel. And you will see that towards the southern, eastern sides of Eretz Yisrael, we have the lands of Ammon and Moav and Edom. According to one opinion, as we learned, I think in the end of the previous Perek, that the lands of Keni, no, we learned it over here, that Keni, Kizi, and Kanmoini could refer to the lands of Ammon, Moav, and Edom. What's unique about these three countries, Edom is all the way in the bottom, is that Hashem clearly told us that up until the coming of Mashiach, we are not allowed to conquer those lands. Very clear. By the way, that we have this psukim in the Chumash, right in Parshas Chukas, I think, towards the end of Bamidbar, that as we were going into, as we were getting closer to Eretz Yisrael, that Edom made us go around them. So we went to the east. You can see on these lands, and then what happened was something fascinating, is that there was a country of Sichon, and Sichon went into battle with Ammon and Moav, and Sichon conquered some of the lands of Ammon and Moav. Now that it belonged to Sichon, those were the lands that Moshe Rabbeinu conquered. That's the whole shot in the pasuk, that Bo Cheshbon that we have over there, that Moshe Rabbeinu says that really when there are wars that are being waged in the world, if we would know the Cheshbon Shel Olam, everything that's happening, it's happening for the betterment of the Jewish people. So just to make it clear that when we will be speaking a lot about questions, whether the lands of Ammon and Moav, they have an obligation midrabanan of Trumas U'Maisros, because we know that even though midoiraisa only Eretz Yisrael is obligated in Trumas U'Maisros, but really there is a rabbinic decree on the lands near Eretz Yisrael that midrabanan they are also obligated in Trumas U'Maisros. Now, it doesn't necessarily go to every single piece of land near Eretz Yisrael. The north, Syria, has its own category. We're going to begin the topic of Syria in the next Mishnah. But when it comes to Ammon and Moav and Mitzrayim, and according to some opinions, even Eretz Shinar, which is Babel, as we will see, there is a rabbinic obligation to give some of the tithings or all of the tithings. We're just beginning to learn this topic. I just want to make it clear right now, and we'll repeat that when we learn the Gemara, that this whole topic of Ammon and Moav is not the territory like by Edom that was never conquered by Moshe. It's dafka those parts of Ammon and Moav that Sichon conquered, that were conquered by Moshe Rabbeinu. That's why they enter into this discussion. Okay, Chevra, let's go right away inside. Daf Mem Hey Amid Basic, and second to last line at the end of Rab Ze'era. Rab Ze'era, who was a Kohen, he went to this place called Chamsa Dekol. Now, L'chu'ura, since as we will see, it was on the way to Bavel. So we're going to go with the Rashirilio that this place was on the eastern border of the Holy Land. And when you're going on a trip, you get into your own thoughts, or if you're going with someone, you start learning at a sugya, and you can forget exactly where you're at. But at some point, he saw that Gadma Yehiv, that he was standing right outside a place called the Klaya de Bavel. The Klaya de Bavel, as long as you don't yet go outside of this area, you are certainly in Eretz Yisrael, and therefore there was no problem with Rab Ze'era being there, him being a Kohen, and outside Eretz Yisrael having in it Tumas Eretz Ha'amim, which midrabanan is Tumas Meis, and a Kohen cannot go there. But he noticed that absent-mindedly, he already stepped beyond that position. And he became concerned that he
Wasn't Rabbi Zajac came from Bavel, Rabbi?
Yeah, for sure. So Yakir is reminding us that he came to Bavel, but it doesn't mean, I know a guy called Yakir that he went to Eretz Yisrael, but then he goes back to Bavel every now and then. So, it's not, he went back, or he was going on a road and he was having a shmooze, but he found himself on the place in the highway, and he says, "Oi, did I go too far?" Now, before we go to Daf Mem Vav, look inside the Rash Shirilio, all the way in the bottom of Mem Hamid Beis. Excuse me. Levadim in the Klai the Bavel. The derech oile Bavel loitimu mishum aver eretz ha'amim. He's already giving you the maskana that the highways that the Yidden used to travel on to go from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel and back, those highways are much less problematic. And why would that be? V'ulai mipnei hayeshivos shoyahol choisebois Eretz Yisrael Bavel. That's the answer, Yakir, to you. There were yeshivas. There were very important yeshivas in Bavel. And therefore, it was just the Talmidei Chachamim, they would go back and forth. You have a question, you have a topic, you have an answer. And the roads, we made sure no one is buried on those roads. And the Chachamim were not goyzer on those roads, which is a very interesting approach of the Rashirilio. In other words, he's saying that outside the area called the Klaya de Bavel, you are chutz la'aretz. And had he gone off the road, there would have been a problem. But he was on the road. Now he was wondering, am I allowed even to be here? Daf Mem Vav. And he didn't know. Now he for sure turned around and went back. He just wanted to know now. So Shalach, now there's different ways of learning it. Sha'al li Rab Chia Barva. Let's go with one way. He asked Rab Chia Barva. Rab Chia Barva did not know the answer. Let's go with that. So Rab Chia Barva then, and he sent a question to the two sons of Rabbi Evi Yasser the Dama, who obviously they were the big mumchim, they were the experts to knowing exactly where does the Oile Bavel Eretz Yisrael end, where does Chutz La'aretz begin? Amnon and Lei, and these two sons told Rab Chia Barva, who then told Rab Ze'era, you're good. That Nehigin Kehanaya Matai Atamoin, that it's fine for the Kahanim to go until that point, and you did nothing wrong. Now I want to start reading certain words that will be very negative today. Look inside the Pnei Moshe. So again, who are they? The two sons of Rabbi Yasser the Dama, Shahoyu became b'Mekayimos, lahechem nechshavos im Eretz Yisrael lo im Eretz Ha'amim, v'amru loi nahagen min kahanim liyos holchen umagin ad l'sham. Okay, that's it. So very good. Now, according to the Rashirilio, this is important. Ad l'sham on the highway. Maybe according to the other commentators, no. B'chlal, that's still part of Eretz Yisrael. Even though it's outside the palms of Bavel. Doesn't matter. Weiter. There was a group of Kahanim, and they asked to the great Rabbi Yechanan, Hahon chuted de Nove. Right, there is a city called Nove. And there is a strip of land that protrudes from Nove. What is the status of that chut, of that little strip of land what's the question? Is it part of Eretz Yisrael? Can I, as a kohen, go there? Or is it chutz la'aretz? Therefore, midrabanan, this tuma is Eretz Amim, and I may not go there. Amaloin Rabbi Yechanan, in the name of Rab Chunya, Divras Chavron, that again, the Hagin Kohanaya Matai Ad Darai. Darai is the name of a place. Darai is beyond Nove. And also, once we're speaking about places which one might think is out, but it's not out of Eretz Yisrael, the thread of land that goes out of Boitzra is also Tahor. Where does Chutz La'aretz really begin? Tumas Eretz Ha'amim ad the Pardesa. Pardesa is the name of a location. Again, Kevin, maybe if you can put up the map, and those of us who are here, go to, again, and whoever has the art scroll, 44b1. This is very important. It's quite fast. First of all, Yegarso Hadusa, we know these names from the Chumash, right? Lavan and Yaakov, where did they make their pact? So then you can see where it is. Another thing, like I mentioned when we began the sugya of the Tchumen, that the territory that was settled by our grandparents, and let's call that under the leadership of Ezra, or as he calls it, the Oile Bavel territory, the width of the Holy Land was mamish doubled than right now. Right? Look at this. Boitzra, now again, whether Boitzra today is in Iraq. Yeah. Now, whether Boitzra, like we mentioned when we learned about Aza, when we learned about other cities, is it exactly where it was? Probably, maybe yeah, maybe not, but it's in that vicinity. And you will see that Boitzra is a border of Eretz Yisrael to the west, to the left, and Chutz La'aretz, right, or Bavel, which will be to the right. You're looking at the wrong side. You have to make it bigger. It's gavaldik. We're going to have a lot today about Boitzra. Yeah, just to be aware of that. Look how big it is. Yeah, today we have a little Golan Heights, a big to-do. Look. I mean, the Golan Heights is Eregoig Melech HaBashim. The Golan Heights, according to most opinions, is Chutz La'aretz. The chiyuv of giving Trumas of Maasros today in the Golan Heights is probably only midrabanan, even though you have to give it. But you'll see that Bisman by Yesheni.
Isn't it there are parts of Syria is also mechuya for
very good. Syria is a sugya b'fnei atzma yakir that's beginning with the next Mishnah. The Rambam puts it all together. When the Rambam speaks about the Shalosh Haratzos, the Rambam was so unique, special. Rabbeinu HaKadosh put Shalosh Haratzos without even including Syria in it. Today we're going to learn a brayso of 2 Haratzos. We're mamish opening up the stuff. This is a fascinating.
Rabbi, when you did Maasros with Rebbe Herzl,
yes,
you're saying that was probably more derabanan rather
probably.
than...
And let me go better, Danny, Rabbi Danny. Even in Eretz Yisrael, Yakir, where you live? Where do you live?
The holy city of Ranana.
Even in Ranana, with an American race, even over there, it's only midrabanan, according to the Rambam. Because you don't have the majority of the Yidden that are living there. That we just learned that the Rambam learns that just like by Chalab b'voyachem b'yaskulchem, the Rambam holds that the same thing is for Trum for Maasros b'yaskulchem. Maybe when Yakir moved to the Holy Land, maybe that was the majority. Maybe you tipped the scales. I don't know. That might make a big difference. It's very important to understand that according to many.
I moved in. They moved out. They moved in. I moved out.
Yeah, but they went to Chutz La'aretz? No.
No, I'm saying people moving in and out. It's not steady like Yakir moved in and tipped the scale.
It's got to be one person. It's going to be one Jew without him even knowing that he did it. I did it. Okay, weiter. Let's go back over here. We're going to come back to the map of Botzra. We're going to quote a phenomenal medrash at the end of today's shir. We have to just get there. Says the Gemara, Amar Abbo, Yesh Hayore Shel Kutim. There are cities that were cities in which the Kutim lived, right? Who are the Kutim? The Kutim were otherwise known as the Shomronim. I want you to know that what we call today Shomron, the name of Shomron had to do with the fact that Sancheriv, who exiled the 10 Shvatim, what he did to the Holy Land, but Lahavdil he did to all the other lands. He would conquer a land, and in order to stay in power, he would move out the Roiv of the locals. He would leave a minority of the locals. He would move in another peoples. They would be so busy fighting each other. You're the Gesha, you're the Tsugukumana, that's it. And the guy on top, stay there or you get hate. That was the way that he dominated areas. So he moved into the Shomron, the Shomronim, Samatarians, I think, Huh? Samaritans. These are the Kutim. Now, here we go. This is the sugya, guys. So there were cities in which Kutim were settled. In Shomron. And says Rabbi Boz also wissen, Shenohago behem heter, even miyamei Hoshea benun. Stam lohoir, there has to be a reason. Every time Chazal call you Hoshea, I don't know the reason here. Just not to be blind to that. All right? So even in this now, he was koivish lands. He conquered lands. Now you have Shemiranim that were living in those lands. So you should know that in those cities, that people, Shonahagu heter, means people did not give Trumas Umaisris. They said you're not chayv to give from what grows or Trumas Umaisris. And they were right. Some people have a minig, just because they have a minig, it doesn't mean it's correct. So Rabbi Bo was saying, no, behebu tarois. Now, why are they mutter? This has to be understood. So Zakti Gemara, Rabbi Yosi, boy, I don't understand. If you're authenticating the minig by saying, "Oh, the minig is correct," and what, and those the produce that grows there is not obligated on Trumas Umaisres, oy bazoi meyato lo yochushoy koyhanim al chalosam. So let's take a couple of steps over here. That first of all, we separate challah here in LA. Since the presumption is that we are all tamei b'tumas meis, let's go further, Vlad. B'chutz la'aretz, everyone is tamei b'tumas meis midrabanan. So the dough is tamei anyway. So the challah is tamei anyway. So we don't take precautions not to be matama the dough because it's already tamei. And anachanami, what do we do with all of our challah? We burn it. It's challah that's tamei. But in those days, it wasn't that way. In those days, since the people were careful not to become tamei, actually they were prohibited of getting their dough tamei prior to removing the challah, because you have to keep the challah, which is truma tar midoiraisa. So let me ask a question. Says Rabbi Yosi, I know that the people that live in the Ayorei Shel Kutim, the Yidden that live in Shomron, they were very careful to make sure that the challah that they remove from their dough remains tahar. Why? If we are understanding that not having to give Trumas Umaisris is coming from the fact that it's not Eretz Yisrael. What are we learning in the last two daf? If it's not Eretz Yisrael, at some time during Zman Bayesheni, there was a gzeiro automatically that what? That it should Tumas Eretz Amim. Once you live in a place where there's Tumas Eretz Amim, there is no point for people to be concerned and take precautions for the challah not to become tummy.
By Ashkelon, that there's a little of this and a little of that, like it has both.
It's exactly what we're learning right now. That's the whole point. In other words, yeah.
I mean, there is an in between.
There is a place that might be chutz la'aretz, not might. Our sugya is saying that Ashkelon is chutz la'aretz. Elamam, the Chachamim did not make the gezerah to Tumas Eretz Amim. And if that's the case, you have to take precautions. So let's go.
It would be Rabbanan, but it's still not completely tummy.
That's correct. Very good. So why are the kahanim lo yochushu? They shouldn't be choishish regarding their challah, but it's not that case. But the anon chame means right seeing. The anon chame that the chachamim, that means that the people that are keeping the halachas properly, they're chashashin. But it's chutz la'aretz, it's tummy anyway. So Amar Rabbi Yehuda ben Pazi loy begin milsa da'at omrat. It's not chutz la'aretz. It's not chutz la'aretz. You misunderstood. It's correct to say that nohagum behem heter already from the times of Hoshea ben Nun, they were not toirem aser. That's fine, but don't think it's because it's chutz la'aretz. Ella begin. It's only because loy chalad toin malchusa biyadam. It's only because we did never re-owned those lands. Let me say the following, guys. So words that, again, there's such a kitzur in Yerushalmi. And we had the sugya in the previous Masechtas. We had a machloikas tanoim, right? Yesh kinyan la'akom lafkiyam en ha'maiser, ein kinyan la'akom lafkiyam en ha'maiser. That's the topic over here. Rabbi Yeshua ben Pazei holds that once a goy owns land in Eretz Yisrael, legal, talking about a financial acquisition, even though the land is the holy land, since now it's under the ownership of a goy, his ownership is mafkia, the obligations of Trumas Omaisis. Tumas Eretz Amim has to do with whether it's Eretz Yisrael or whether it's Chutz La'aretz. The ayara is in which the Shemiroinim live is Eretz Yisrael. Elamah, you're not chayv on Trumas Omaisis because it's land that was owned by the goyim. It was never given back to us, even Bisman Bayesheni, because the Talmud Yerushalmi is written at the end of Bayesheni afterwards. Even nowadays, it's not like the Babylon, the Persians gave us back ownership. Those lands, they never gave it back ownership. If our chazaka has to do with the acquiescence of the goyim, look at the Holy Land today. How the goyim, not that we have to care, but just the fact that they don't consider Yehuda and Shomron to be part of Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, we never reowned it. If we never reowned it, so therefore that's why they are exempt. But it is Eretz Yisrael, and therefore, Danny, like Ashkelon, now you know the reason. There is no gezerah tumas Eretz Amim. Let's go weiter. Rabbi Yasa Shama. Rabbi Yasa heard. Rabbi Yasa like Rabbi Ze'ed as a kohen. Where's Edo? Rabbi Yasa Shama da Asas Ime Lebatzra. Rabbi Yasa heard that his mother was coming to Boitzra. We already saw the map. I want to make it very clear. We're going to learn, let's say, the Marafulda in the Sugya. His mother came from further east, but she was going to Eretz Yisrael. That's the way the Marafulda learns. Look inside the Marafulda, 9 lines from the top. Shama da Asas Ime. Shama she imoi ba'as liboitzra. She is coming from Moav. If you can see the map, right, it's funny. In other words, she traveled north. Maybe a little bit northwest. And she was the entry point. I don't know, Kevin, if you can leave the map bigger, just leave it big and that's it. That's it. And she went to Boitzra. From Boitzra, she was going to go into the Holy Land. So part of Kibbutz of Ha'em, right, the Rebbe went to Paris to greet his mother, to help her come over to the United States. He wanted to go greet his mother to help her travel the last part of the journey. Problem is, Boitzra, you see on the map, is a border city. A kohen is not allowed to go chutz la'aretz because he's becoming tamei midirabanan, tumas meis. Rabbi Yasa heard that his mother is coming to Boitzra, so he asked Rabbi Yochanan, "Mahu lotzeis? Am I allowed or am I not allowed?" Amalei Rabbi Yochanan told him that if the reason why you're going to greet your mother, the reason why you're going to Boitzra, and then you're going to accompany her inside Ranana, wherever he lived, if it's a danger to go from Boitzra to wherever you live in Eretz Yisrael, for a danger, of course you're allowed to do that. Pikuach nefesh. Pikuach nefesh is decha kol Torah kula. No doubt that you can accompany your mother. But it's saying, go. But if it's not about, it's a sakana. Ironically, what? There was no sakana from where she was, from Moav until Boitzra, there was no sakana, kasha v'amaisa. She was already there. But if it's not about a danger, so Rabbi Yochanan says the words, Eini yoideya, I don't know. In other words, I don't know. Not, I don't know whether it's Israel or not. Boitzra was out of Israel. I don't know who will allow a kohen even though a kohen is not allowed to become tamei midor. You understand what's going on over here? That's what he says. I don't know. Now the only thing is that you learn a good lesson if a great Rav tells you I don't know, don't let him off the hook. So atrachaloi, or the way I was told to pronounce it, ilave. Rabbi Yosef said, atam gemuchet. Rebbe, you got to give me an answer. If you don't know, who will know? Who should I go to? So he pushed him. But Amar, ultimately, he said, guys, there are different girsois. So if you already decided to go, then tavi b'shalom, then go in peace and come in peace, then you're allowed to go. In other words, he got out of him that he's allowed to do it. Hold on. So Amar Rab Shmuel bar Rab Yitzchak, what did he mean? Just to clarify, im gamarta lotze is tavi b'shalom. Oid, again, different girsois. Oid, he tzericha l'Rabbi Yochanan. did Rabbi Yochanan still not have clarity? And he only told him, he was nudging him. He said, if you're going. Like, don't bother me. Or did Rabbi Yochanan actually come to an understanding that you're taka allowed to go? He was asking, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yitzchak is asking, what exactly did he mean by that? So Shama, Rabbi Lazar, we know Rabbi Lazar was his chaver, his Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan. V'amar, that's V'amar, and he said, no, you don't know my Rebbe. You don't know Rabbi Yochanan. If Rabbi Yochanan says, Im gomar tolotz istave b'shalom, if that's what you decided to go, he would never say that if you would have a doubt. No, Rabbi Yochanan, the ein reshus gedoyla mizu. He gave you permission. Why would he give you a bracha if he would have a pickbook of a doubt of whether you can do it or not? That's why by Achasid, you ask the Rebbe for a bracha. The Rebbe giving you a bracha implies that there's no problem. If there would be any tzad of a problem, how would he give you a bracha? Even though it's not like he right away paskent. It's a gavaldic story. He pushed him.
If you already decided, okay, fine, then it's good, right? Almost like he's not giving you a.
I would say like this. So the question is, okay, so the Gaba is asking a kasha. Rabbi Lazar knows his Rebbe. If he said the words Taveh b'Shalom, it means Ein lo shus going to do. So why didn't he say go gesun hate? So let's go like that. Chavi, we learned the Braisa in Masechta Brachos in Yerushalmi, in our pagination on Daf Lamed Dalid, that a kohen is allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael. A kohen, not only a yid, for Torah study, for marriage, prevention of financial loss. Every time Yakir comes here, it's to prevent the loss. Oh, so 1 second. so there's a discussion amongst the commentators here that according to that Braisa, if you are allowed to travel to prevent a financial loss, there's no doubt that you can travel for Kibbud Aim. No doubt. So they're wondering, what was B'chal Rabbi Yochanan's hesitation? Of course, for Kibbud Aim you can do it. So they're saying, must be Rabbi Yochanan didn't have the Braisa, which is normal. Not everyone it wasn't taught. He never heard it. What I would like to say, perhaps, Ulai, when a person is saying, I want to go because of Kibbud Aim, what's the hesitation? The hesitation might be, Danny, that's for you. If indeed the person is going because of Kibbud Aim, then Ein Reshus Gedoyla Mizu. Kibbud Aim is doicha the problem for a kohen going in Chutz La'aretz, even though there's Tumah Midrabanan. Problem is that many times people don't go only because of Kibbud Aim. They want to go. Then they're looking for a heter. So they're using a heter. And maybe when a person has that attitude, maybe that's not so kosher. And
we find out
how do you find out? Let me
so
finish my logic.
aspects.
And how do you find out what's the person's intent is? That when Rabbi Yochanan tells him, what was his words? He told him, Any Yudea. The only reason why he would have the chutzpah to bother Rabbi Yochanan is because of Kibbud Aim. That's the way I understand it. Is that he pushed him and he told him, if you're planning to go, we're not wired that way. But he was wired that way. That the only stamina to keep on pushing and he decided to go was only you gaze taka because for Kibbud Aim, for sure you can go. I just didn't know whether you're using that as a teretz. Maybe. That would answer all of the questions here. Let's go back. It's late. Now, says the Gemara, Rav Shimon Lakish, ask Rabbi Chanina, Hakoina ba'amanu moyav. Chavra, making it clear again. Amanu moyav. We're speaking about the Amanu moyav that was conquered, the parts that Sichon conquered, and therefore we were given permission to conquer it from them. That's what we're talking about. If you buy land in Amanu moyav, Mao, are you obligated in the mitzvahs Hanoi Hagois, midrabanan, on the lands that are near Eretz Yisrael? That's the question. Amalei ani lo shemati mi Rabbi Chia Gadol. I only heard from the great Rabbi Chia, Ela mi parashas Ashkelon velachutz, that outside Ashkelon is one exempt. So imagine, am I chayev to take Trumas U'Maisres or keeping Shviyas from Amon Moav? Or I only heard about outside Ashkelon. Who spoke to you about Ashkelon? Ashkelon is southwest. Amon Moav, relative to Ashkelon, is northeast. So what are you asking? What are you answering? Right? Rab Shimon ben Lakish, Reish Lakish asked Rab Chanina about the east of the country. Right? And he's giving you a teretz about the southern west. What's tutzach? The daf mem vav base. So the Gemara says, Ella, begin the lace Rab Chanina. We had this many times. Rab Chanina would never say something that he did not hear from his teacher, which is Reish Lakish. He never heard. Again, the lace Rab Chanina. Amar mila l'shom min yoymai. I'm sorry, from his not his. Reish Lakish was a student. Since he never heard regarding that, he would never give an opinion. He would never give an opinion if he never heard it. You don't make up your own halachas. You want halach is something that we have a Kabbalah. You can't make it up. But on the other hand, he had another virtue, which is when someone comes and asks you, someone comes to talk to you, don't let that person go away empty-handed. So he gave him another halacha that he did know. Ubegin deloy mafkistei reikon. He didn't want him to go empty-handed. So begin Cain, shol min adom, megid min adom. He didn't know the answer, but he knew another answer, which was also something that others perhaps struggled with regarding the southern western border. From where is Eretz Yisrael? From where is Chutz La'aretz? What is chayiv? What is not chayiv? You want to know about the borders? You're asking me about the east. I'll tell you about the west.
Not a good answer. Try that.
Don't try that with your wife. Don't try that with try that with with your pal.
Don't try that with your wife.
Correct. Okay. So Bekitzer, the question is not answered. So the Gemara is going to go dig into it. Rab Shimon ben Lakish went to Boitzra. And Asan Legabe Amr, the people that lived in Boitzra asked Reish Lakish, Chamelon Banash, they told him we need a rabbi. We need a rabbi. But they didn't want to have they wanted to have someone who's, we call him a kol boinik. What's a kol boinik? Do you know someone who's a darish? See, the first thing they want from a rabbi, a darshan. America, see, it's chutz la'aretz, right? The Yakir in Eretz Yisrael, the rabbi is a whole different thing. They use the word rabbi as something derogatory. You're a rabbi. So, but the boitz is chutz. You want to have a darshan, and he should be a dayan. That's not enough. And he should be a scribe, and he should be a chazan means a gabbai. Just to know, a chazan doesn't mean a cantor. That's mamash an American invention. They never had a cantor. A chazan means someone who takes the responsibility of running a shul. Today it's called a gabbai slash shamish. That's the meaning throughout Chazal of a chazan. In other words, do you know someone that of it kol tzoir chinon, that can take care of all of our needs? And they wanted him at half price, Rabbi Mendel is saying. That they're not talking about the price. But we need someone. I'm not. So and Reish Lakish knew someone. So Chamar Chad Bavloi Amalei. So he found up someone a good in Koilel. He went to the Koilel. He spoke to Rabbi Heller. I found a guy. You think you want this in him? Amalei, and he went back and he told the people in Boitzra, Chamislach, I saw for you Chad Asar Tov. I'm sorry. He spoke to the Koilel Yungaman. He spoke to this guy that I found a good position for you. Now, what's the issue? What's the issue? Let me tell you the issue. We're not allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael. There's another issue. You're not allowed to leave Bavel to Chutz La'aretz. Remember that? Bavel Yavayu. And you got to stay over there. So he went, Asas Legabe Rabbi Yechanan. He lived in Bavel, the Talmud. We already established Boitzra is not Eretz Yisrael. But is Boitzra Bavel? And if Boitzra is not Bavel, then we're not allowed to leave Bavel to go to Chutz La'aretz. We got new problems, guys.
Didn't ask it. What?
Yes, Rabbi Yechanan. Correct. It was Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yechanan was the master. Shimon Lakish made a shidduch. He found a Rav. The Rav understood. He knew already that Boitzra is not in Eretz Yisrael. But the problem is he lived in Bavel. That was his question. To a lesser place. Amalei Rabbi Yechanan, am I allowed to leave? So Rabbi Yechanan told him that Boitzra is Bavel. And you are allowed to go from one place in Bavel to another place in Bavel. Amalei min Bavel le Bavel. That's the way the Marafolder learns it. Beautiful. Look inside. Chamilei, guys, three lines from the top. That's the whole issue. 3 lines from the top of the Amud. Chamilei, Ra lanu ben Adam. They told him, find us a darshan, a dayan, a soifer, a chazan, a knesses, v'ois alon, and kol tzarechenu. And indeed, Ra Reish Lakish chad bar Bavel, someone who lived in Bavel then, shoyahogoin liyos darshan v'chulei, amar Reish Lakish lo'ois bar Bavel, I found you a position. Risi lo chamakim toiv. The problem was, v'asali abi Rabbi Yechanan v'shaloin, imuter lotzei sham. Now, who asked him? Not Reish Lakish. It's interesting, right? The Talmud asked. That potential rabbi asked. The Dayan asked.
And Resh Lakish wouldn't know that Batra is
That's
Bavel?
the whole beauty. Maybe he didn't trust Reish Lakish. Maybe Reish Lakish was getting a commission. I don't know. Good question. If Reish Lakish was the one that asked and the story fits. Sounds like Reish Lakish did the shidduch, and he went to ask Rabbi, you have to know a lot of information, and there's an isur. So Rabbi Yechanan, in the Marafulda, min bavel lebaveli, shegam boitzra mi bavel, and therefore ve'en kan isur. Says the Gemara, Omar. Kevin is so busy with his maps that I'm getting a headache. Like, wow. Omar Yaakov bar Abba, min man do Omar Rabbi Yechanan, min bavel lebavel. Oh, now let's learn. Ado Amra kumtois hakoin nesham einem eschayev. Now, in other words, there were still people that were wondering maybe Boitzra is Eretz Yisrael. Maybe Boitzra is Eretz Yisrael. It's a border city. And if that would be the case, coming back to our topic, let's go to Masechta Shvius. If you own land in Boitzra, is that included in the Isur of Shvius or not? So from what he answered, it's not. That's what the Marafulda is saying. Bavel. Hold on, not so clear. Says the Gemara, v'chitzur einoi asur leilach sham. One thing is for sure, Tzur, right? Now we're going mamish. We're going to the Lebanon. We're going straight up north. That Tzur for sure is outside Eretz Yisrael, and therefore, just as an example, Tumas Eretz Ha'amim Vadai goes on Tzur, Chutz La'aretz. Nevertheless, are you telling me? Once we establish it's chutz la'aretz, the hakoin nesham eino mischayev bit miyam. No, you are chayev. We are chayev because, as we'll start to learn, that lands, not all lands, maybe all lands, some lands that are near Eretz Yisrael are mechuyev midrabanan to have trumas u'maisres or some of them taken, and midrabanan there's a din of shvius. So therefore, how can you tell me from what he paskin that hakoin nesham in Boitzra in a mischayev? All Rabbi Yechanan said was Boitzra's chutz la'aretz. Okay, it's not Eretz Yisrael. It's Bavel. It's not Eretz Yisrael. Just because it's not Eretz Yisrael doesn't mean that ain't a mischayev. Actually, we'll see clearly. Amoin, Moav, Mitzrayim, and Shinar. Shinar is Bavel are under this rabbinic obligation of some or all trumas u'maisres. That's it. And the Gemara doesn't have to. The Gemara has no. We're not looking for an answer. We're just making a point over here, and that's a gewaldige point. And again, just to make it clear, ultimately it's a big machlokes rishonim. Some rishonim hold that all of the lands that are surrounding Eretz Yisrael on the map that we had before on 44b1, all of them are chayiv. The ones near. Some of them hold Ammon Moav. Ammon and Moav. Whenever we say Ammon and Moav, that's today. We're learning Ammon and Moav is not the whole Ammon and Moav. Edom, Ammon and Moav could be from the 3 lands we're going to get with Mashiach. Ammon and Moav is referring specifically to the lands that Sichon conquered. And Bo Cheshboin, Bo Vanasa Cheshboin Shaloilam, that the reason why God made it that Ammon and Moav went to a war against Sichon and Sichon conquered some of their lands is because Hashem wanted for us to have those lands already then. But we are not allowed to conquer the lands of Ammon and Moav. We didn't. That Sichon was Metayr the lands. Metayr means now that he conquered it, Kibush is a Kibush. That's what we're learning. Yeshua was Mekoivish. So now it's the lands of Sichon. Once it's the lands of Sichon, we are not allowed to conquer lands of Edom, Ammon and Moav before Mashiach. But from Sichon we can conquer, and indeed we did. So just to know that the Rishonim that hold that the lands that are obligated in the rabbinic tithing is Mitzrayim, Shinar. Shinar can be Boitzer. That's the whole point. It's all Zayin Bavel. So what? It's Bavel. Shinar. Ammon and Moav, it's not all Ammon and Moav, it's those parts of Ammon and Moav. Says the Gemara, Ashkach, Tonai, Rabbi Yaakov, Bar Abba, he found the Tana, he found the Braisa. And to remember the Braisa, Simen, La'amoin Moav La'eretz Mitzrayim, because that's the topic of the Braisa. Now what's beautiful is, okay, let's put the Rambam on a shelf for a moment. Let's go back a couple of hundreds of years prior. Bisman HaTanoim, Rabbeinu HaKadosh began this Perek called Shalosh Aratzos. What are the Shalosh Aratzos? Not the Shalosh Medinos. That's something else, which is very negeh for Bir Shvius. Shalosh Aratzos. Shalosh Aratzos is what was Bisman HaMishnah, real Eretz Yisrael, Oil Bavel territory, one category. The other category of Aratzos is that which was conquered in the Holy Land by Oil Mitzrayim, but that was not resettled by Oil Bavel. And then everything else, Chutz La'aretz. Even though Syria is a fourth category, but the Rebbe didn't put it in here. That's our Mishnah's meaning, the Perek Shalosh Aratzos. There is a Braisa that we're going to quote that doesn't categorize 3 Aratzos. There's only 2 Aratzos. That's called Shtei Aratzos. It's very important. And what are the 2 Aratzos of the Braisa, just to make it clear? It's Oila Mitzrayim territory and Chutz La'aretz. It will make a lot of sense, guys, because Torah Shebal Peh began with Moshe Misinai. Like, how do you think they learned the Mishnah Bisman Bayis Rishon? However, they learned the Torah Shebal Peh. Shtei Aratzos. Shtei Aratzos. Oila Mitzrayim territory was Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz.
Is that an opinion that would hold that
Or then he's saying better, that even Bisman the Braisa, I like what you're saying, it's probably better. That would be the opinion that holds Kitcher L'Shaina, Kitcher L'Shaita, the Kitcher L'Asalavi. So everything that was conquered by Elam Mitzrayim remains holy forever. So Shtei Aratzos, that's probably correct. So the Braisa holds Shtei Aratzos. And it does exactly what we learned in the Mishnah. What's the difference? What's the Shtei Aratzos? Elam Mitzrayim territory and everything else. So Shtei Aratzos, Achas, one of them. So he says that, one second. One second, Danny. In Chutz La'aretz Gufa, there are 2 categories. From what? From the lands that have a rabbinic obligation to be tithed, from those lands, we don't put them all in the same category. Bavel, Mitzrayim, Ammon, and Moab. No, we separate them. What are the 2 categories? One of the 2 lands that are in Chutz La'aretz, and that refers to Mitzrayim. Listen to this. Ne'echeles ve'ne'evedes. When it comes to Shvi'is, I know Trumas u'Maisres, there's rabbinic obligation. But for Shvi'is, 0 obligation. In other words, not only is Ne'echeles, we had these words in the Mishnah, Ne'echeles means that even though it's Man HaBiur, it's after the time of Biur, there's no obligation of Biur. Not only that, you can work the lands on Shvi'is. There's no prohibition on Shvi'is. That's one of the 2 lands that are in Chutz La'aretz Mitzrayim. Va'achas refers to the lands of Ammon and Moav. But again, Sichon, the lands that were conquered by Moshe Rabbeinu, even though it's Chutz La'aretz, Ne'echeles, there's no din of Biur, there's no limitation of not eating after Zman HaBiur, but v'loi ne'evedes. Okay. So what do we have from all of this? Why did Rabbi Yaakov Bar Ada bring this in? Guys, look in the Marafulda, the first line under, the first widest line. By the dot, Uboitzra, Irmoyafi. That's why he's saying it. Gewaldig. So very good. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Ada says, remember, when Rabbi Yochanan goes to that student, that rabbi, what's it called? Achilik. He was looking for the job that you're allowed to go there. Min Bavel Bavel. It's interesting. He's putting Boitzra in the category of Moav, and you look on the map, it fits because it's a boundary between Eretz Yisrael and Bavel and Moav. And since we see over here that Moav is midrabanan, you have to rest the land. That's gavaldik. You have to rest the land. So l'cha'ira, I think with that he's saying that you are mischayev. I think if it's obligated midrabanan in some dinei shvius, it means it's obligated midrabanan in the dinim of Trumas u'Maisres. So he changed this position. He began to say from Rabbi Yochanan, Hakoy Nesham eino mischayev. And now from this Braisa, Ashkach Tonei, from the Braisa Fakert, you are chayev. Let's learn one more line, guys. We have another minute. Just finish the end of the Yomad. Savar. Guys, I know there's a big question in Girsois. Savar Reishimin ben Lakish Meimar. Now this is amazing. In Parshas V'aschanan, when the pasuk begins that Oz Yavdol Moshe Sholish Orem Be'ever Hayarden Mizracha, And the Torah writes the names of the 3 Arei Miklot that Moshe Rabbeinu designated where Me'ever LaYarden. So one of the names is Betzer, right? Betzer. We are presuming, which is wrong, that Betzer and Boitzra is the same location. Sovar Rab Shimon ben Lakish Meimar, that when it says on Parshas V'aschanon as Betzer Bamidbar, that Betzer Bamidbar is Boitzra. By the way, that's part of what Moshe Rabbeinu conquered. That's Moav. Shal Rabbi Yochanan is indeed Boitzra. Is it the same city? We're learning about Boitzra. Is the Betzer in the Chumash Boitzra? V'amar lei, no, Betzer la Boitzrahu. Betzer la Boitzrahu. Look inside the last Pnei Moshe. Betzer l'chud or Boitzra l'chud. 2 different cities. L'may nafkamin if it's 2 different cities. Chavre and Avodah Zarah. I think in Daf Nun Chesam and Beis there's a Tosfos which is connected to a sugya Makis that says like this: that ba'achres hayamim, right, which will be b'mehedi b'yameinu amen. The Samach Mem, who is also known as the Malach of Rome, is going to run away from God's retribution, and he's going to run to an Arei Miklot. Where will he run away? So it says in the Medrash that the Samach Mem will make 3 mistakes. The fact that we are allowed to learn it now is a raya that he's not learning. He never learns Torah, so we can say he won't hear what we're saying. And what will he do? One mistake will mean that he's going to run away to Boitzra, because he will think, the Samach Mem will think that Boitzra is a Ir Miklot, and somehow, if it would have been an Ir Miklot, then this destructive angel of Edom would somehow find protection. And because of this psak that Betzra is not Boitzra, him running away to Boitzra will be of no avail. And that's what Rabbi Yochanan is saying. And the koyach is that when a Yid learns Torah, even on the online, there's no Samach Mem there. Because if not, we would not be allowed to be Megal Osoid. He's not Megal Osoid, he's not learning. We can say it 20 times and he won't hear it. Let's go. God willing to be continued. Guys, it's late.